Recording in progress.
All right, well, I think the weather might be in people's way tonight. We're going to go ahead and get going. So, good evening. I'm calling the Fairfield RTM's March 16th, 2026 informational meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. And I will now take the roll. Peter Britton. Doug Niffin. I think he's online. Okay, Melissa Longo. Brooke Sparacino. Okay.
Melissa is here.
Got you, Melissa. Thank you. Brooke Sparacino. Scott Basang.
Here.
Tara Cook-Littman.
Here.
Craig Diamond.
Here.
Gil Larson.
Here.
Ashby Dodge.
Here.
Ann Pfiffick. Mike Hardigan. Cindy Waldron. Jen Howhuth. Laura Carson. I know you're on that, Mama.
Here.
Michelle McCabe.
Here.
Liz Zezma. Here. Betsy Elrick. Josh Garskoff. Sharon Pistilli. Jay Walk.
Here.
Thank you. Emma Barron.
Here.
Rob Blanchard. Eric Druniak.
Here.
Tracy Rodriguez.
Here.
Steve Barrett. Lori Galdenzi. John Kuhn.
Here, my video is disabled for some reason.
Okay, FairTV will, now that they know that you're a rep, they'll put it on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Nickel. Lenny Brayman.
Here.
Chris Carroll. Rich Jacobs.
Here.
Eileen O'Reilly. Drew Georgiadis. Lisa Havey. She's there. Amanda Morgan.
Here.
Eric Treshuk. Matt Ambrose. Justin Contrado. Margaret Horton. And Pierre Ratsky. I got Melissa. Thank you. All right. Why don't we stand for the pledge? All right. So first up, we have agenda item number 3, which is an appointment to the Solid Waste and Recycling Commission. Courtney Radosavalevic. Please tell me that I pronounced it properly. No. Shoot, I've been trying to practice and everything. I really am sorry. And please tell me how to pronounce it if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. My name is Courtney Radosavalevic.
Radosavalevic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I apologize for not doing it correctly. Backup for this begins on page 1. And so would you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to join this commission?
Sure. I have been a resident of Fairfield for about 6 years now, and I am very passionate about the environment and Fairfield. So together, I would like to help this commission reduce the amount of trash that Fairfield is making, and give people the knowledge of how to recycle the right way, because as you know, or don't know, we spend a lot of money in this town going through the recycling, and there's a lot of contamination. So we spend a lot of money on that. So in an effort to reduce the amount of money that we spend and save the planet, both those reasons combined, I would like to join this commission.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Any questions online? Just put your name in the chat if you want to ask anything. Thank you so much. I mean, we had a RTM tour of DPW recently. They talked about the containment issue, so it sounds like you have the passion and expertise. So thank you. We'll let you know if you need to appear next Monday. Thank you so much. All right. Next is agenda item number 4, which is an appointment to the Special Projects Standing Building Committee, Larry S. Kochman, and backup begins on page 6. And so, same thing. Welcome, Mr. Kochman. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to join this committee.
You're not here.
The high school building.
We're not able to hear online. Not
Oh.
here.
I'm sorry. So, can you make sure that the green button is on and be closer to the mic? It sounds like folks online are having a difficult time hearing you.
Ah, there we go.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's better. Thank you.
Start from the beginning real quick there. Reintroducing myself, Larry Kochman. I've been a town of Fairfield resident for over 35 years. Back in I think it was around 1999 when we started, I was a member and the secretary of the high school building committee. Spent 7 years working on the solutions with everybody in town, come up with to build the middle school, Ludlow Middle School, and do the conversion of Ludlow, and then we did the upgrades to Ward. Upon the completion of that, I then volunteered for the Stratfield Building Committee and worked with Al Kelly. I was the vice chair of that committee, and I guess now, sadly, I'm looking to take his position on the Special Projects Building Committee. Been in construction for over 40 years, just recently retired. So now I have the time to come back and do things within town. Also, I spoke to Richard Special, the chairman of that committee, and Chuck Oliveri, who was on the high school building committee. And in talking to them, it would seem that I would be a good fit for to be part of this Special Projects Building Committee.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Kochman?
Yes, I do.
Representative Wolk? And please just
Thank
write
you,
your name
Matt.
in the chat.
Yeah, I put it in. Thank
you.
you, Madam Moderator. Larry, I don't know if you remember me, but I want to thank you very much for everything that you did for, I just have a comment, and I'm totally in favor of you taking this position. Working with the building committee at Stratfield School, you guys did everything I asked for you to do. So I thank you for everything, and you're a perfect fit. And thank you for volunteering again.
You got it.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, seeing none online either. Thank you. And again, the town clerk will let you know if you need to come next week.
Okay.
Thank
very
you so
good.
much.
Thank you.
All right, so moving right along, agenda item number 5, we're going to hear a report from the Arts Commission. We have Mark Barnhart and Charlie McDonald. Backup begins on page 14.
Good evening. Yeah, we actually had a presentation. We don't have to go through that and bore you with it. I think you all had the presentation.
Yes.
You got and look at
We
it.
got it in our backup. Thank you.
This is my 3rd year in front of the commission, in front of the committee, and we've done a lot of great stuff. I don't know how many of you have been involved, but we recently got designated as the cultural district downtown. The lieutenant governor came with Bill Gerber. We had a thing at the Shoe Theater. We wrapped one utility box down on Sherman Green, if you've seen it, with the money that you have generously given to the commission. We're going to do 3 more. We have 3 more planned. We have a total of 5 we'll be doing. We're looking into murals. If any of you have traveled around the world or even the United States and you go to these cities, you always see these beautiful murals all over the buildings. If you go down by Sunny Days, they have one they did on their own. But, we would reach out to artists to try to do some of that kind of work. We have to represent all the artists in Fairfield. So we're looking at dancers, musicians, pottery makers. I mean, it runs the gamut. The one thing they always ask us for that we can't deliver is a artist colony space. And if you go over in the block, just over the line into Bridgeport, you can find warehouses where you could do that. Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that in Fairfield. We have the Artistic Visions Challenge, which is in its 2nd year. If you get a chance, please stop by the Fairfield Public Library downtown. This year we have 30 folks who gave us some work that they want us to look at. Tremendous work celebrating our 250th. I don't know, Mark, anything else I missed? We've done a lot. We've done a lot with a little. We started off, every year I come here, I ask you for money. And I think that's why a lot of people are online instead of here today. They know I'm probably going to ask for money again. When you first started. Yeah, well, we're getting ready for the budget. The first year, you gave us $1,000 of seed money, and we did a lot with that $1,000. And with the state, also just gave us $1,000. And Bill came to you last year. We asked for 30,000. He cut it to 15. We're making really good headway with that 15. It'll be spent by the end of the fiscal year, but we look into next fiscal year. There's a lot of different areas in town that your constituents want us to do signage for example. They want a special logo for Greenfield Hill. They want one for Stratfield. They want one for downtown. And we have artists working on that to make these designs. We also need signage. I guess we'll probably have to go to the state market, if I'm not mistaken, to get signage that when people come in, they'll know they're heading into the cultural district. This is all about improving and increasing tourism in Fairfield. And that's part of our agenda. So that's what we're doing. I hope when the budget comes up, I hope you'll be very gracious and supportive.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions? Representative Zezima.
Thank you, Liz Esma, District 4. Charlie, hi, thank you for all you guys are doing. It's really very gratifying to see this taking shape in Fairfield. Can you tell me more about the young artist concept? Is that school kids, and if so, what age? Is that the college kids, or is it just younger artists in the community, young adults?
Yeah, last year it was mostly geared towards the youth, but this year we've done a collaboration, youth and adults. So they work in collaboration with each other, and there's 2 different prizes they'll be awarded, one for a certain age group, one for the other age group. So it covers the gamut.
Are you working with the school system at all?
Yes. Oh yeah. All the arts teachers are involved in it. I forget her name. Michelle. Yeah, she's working with Sam Goldstein as a commission member. To make sure we had a series of meetings where people got together and discussed what they needed to do to present their works. And so we did 3 or 4 of those. I failed to mention too, one of the things we do is about every other month, we have meetings in different areas, in different establishments around Fairfield to engage artists and see what their needs are and what we can do for them next.
So would this also be elementary school?
Yeah.
The Artistic Vision Challenge goes from ages 10 up.
Okay.
So we both have a youth as well as an adult category. About 2/3 of the participants this year are youth. A lot of folks, youth in the 10 to 15 age bracket. We're trying to engage the universities in their fine arts program as well. But we have about 10 public and parochial schools participating this year in the Artistic Vision Challenge.
I mean, the reason I'm asking is there's a discussion, and that's all it is. It's not a decision or an initiative about changing, the scope of our perhaps art classes in elementary school. So I didn't know if there was some way you could fill a gap if that were to be the case, or if it's more the other way around where you're looking for students in art in the schools to participate in some way.
I think the vision was to try to encourage, well, try to build an arts community, folks that are interested and enthusiastic about the arts, and to encourage cross-generational collaboration between young people that have an interest and a passion for the arts, and professional artists that are working in the field. So that was the original thought behind it. It's not just, juried competition, but really the emphasis is on creating those collaboration moments along the way.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Representative McCabe.
Michelle McCabe, District 4. I'm curious what efforts have been made so far to apply for grants, especially for the public art. I know that Bridgeport is a very close by example of a community that's really leaned into a public art program. And I do think that some of that funding was from grants. I'm just curious what other ways besides appealing to the town who should be investing in this. So I don't want to give any indication. I don't think so. But what other avenues have been explored by the commission?
Take it. Yeah, go ahead. We always look for ways to leverage the funding generously provided by the town. So we do have sponsors as part of our Artistic Vision Challenge. We are looking at grant opportunities as well for the Public Art Utility Cabinet Program. Each one has a sponsor associated with it that provides the artists compensation for their work. So wherever we can, we're looking to leverage the funding support we have from the town. When we get into bigger projects like murals, I think that will be an area where we'll look to Sustainable CT and other organizations that do provide philanthropic support for those larger works, because that will clearly outstrip the funding that the resources that we have on hand. So wherever we can, we're trying to marry it as best we can.
Thank you. Speaking for myself, I think it would be really helpful next presentation to have a sense of, what you've been investing the money in, what your aspirations are, what, approximate budget those things will be, just to kind of ground the request in both past activities and an idea of what you would like to see going forward.
Yeah, and we're doing that. I mean, we're still, even though it's year 3, we're in infancy. So, with $1,000 budget the first year, there wasn't much to report in the second year. Now this year, because we did get the 15,000 from the town, there will be accountability for that. We've already allocated about 2/3 of it between the murals and not the murals, between the utility box wraps and the artistic challenge. So, yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Representative Barrett. I can hear you, but can people online?
Steve Barrett,
There we
District
go.
7. Last year, I spent some time in Quebec City, and what they do up there is any kind of new development or new things, they require 1% of the project cost be assigned to local art projects. And it could be either on their property and like murals or sculptures or things along those lines, or if they didn't want to do it on their property, they would give it to the town, and they use all local artists who could sponsor performance or maybe take a town green space, make like some kind of artistic garden or something like that. I know that's beyond your what you guys can do, but have you looked into that and maybe push the right buttons for that?
Actually, that is something that I think we didn't really cover, both in our written report and as well as our remarks here. We did have an opportunity to amend our zoning regulations, support an amendment to our zoning regulations to encourage developers or developments to include public art as part of their overall development project. It provides for an offset to allow them to have some other benefits in terms of their developable space. But in exchange, there's a component for public art. So the first project that we're working on with the development team is the project at 750 Commerce Drive. They've incorporated a public plaza and a public art component as part of their development proposal to planning and zoning. As I indicated, the Arts Commission had reviewed the concept plan for it and also supported a text amendment through the zoning regulations to allow for that. And we hope that that, as opposed to the compulsory, but a voluntary, but where you have some shared benefits. So the developer gets something in exchange for making a commitment to public art. But the next piece for us will be to ensure that there is a recorded covenant in place for maintenance of the public art. So that's something that we've looked at from other communities. So thank you for bringing that up.
And thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Before I go to members online, is there anyone else in person? All right, so moving online, I think I have Representative Niffen first.
Oh, yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Doug Niffen, District 1. First of all, loved your presentation, particularly like your strategic plan. It's really good to see a year-by-year set of goals set out. I think that's terrific. We don't often see that. My question was about the culture district map, which I think is also terrific. How do you define the boundaries of what the district is?
Charlie McDonald, District 8. Oh, boy. You had to make some kind of design. Theoretically, it's supposed to be an area that you could walk and no problem. By no means, because the cultural district just shows downtown to maybe the Quick Center, it doesn't exclude like other areas like in Stratfield, the library area. Wherever there's artwork, we work with them. But that district is just for the edification of the state.
Yeah, the state has certain requirements to establish a cultural district. It should be an area where there's a preponderance of cultural assets, and it needs to be a walkable area. We kind of stretched the definition of that a little bit to encompass as many arts and cultural venues as we could. You know, I walk all the time, so I don't find this to be all that ambitious in terms of the district, but we did have, answer some questions from the state in terms of whether or not we should encompass, areas of Fairfield University, which we picked up to get the Quick Center and the Fairfield University Museum of Art as part of it. But, I think this really does hit the mark in terms of an area, center of town. There's a high degree of cultural assets here, a lot of, and it is certainly walkable. But to Charlie's point, we want to emphasize and celebrate all the art venues and organizations here in town, and to encourage them to be part of it. So this is an opportunity for us to bring greater awareness to all arts and culture, regardless of whether it's physically within the district or not.
One thing I'd like to say too, they were very impressed with our presentation for the cultural district because we were the only ones that ever applied that actually had a house of worship. We had the first church congregation because of their organ and their stained glass. They were blown away by that.
That's excellent. Is this map posted anywhere within the cultural district?
It is. It's on the town's website, but that's one of the things we're working, actually, we did apply for and were accepted into the Connecticut Main Street Accelerator Program to develop a strategic plan or a marketing plan around the cultural district to bring greater awareness to the district. Some of the things we've talked about, as Chairman McDonald mentioned, was ways in which we could demarcate the district through maybe some finials or street signage that would be appropriate. But also things as common as just a pamphlet or brochure or a map. So one of the things we'll be working on with the Board of Selectmen's approval is the installation of a few digital kiosks downtown, one on Sherman Green and one close to 1720 Post Road and that pocket park there. And that will include a map of the downtown, the cultural district, as well as the venues within it. So it's a way to, again, make sure that people can find where they need to go. There's certainly a wayfinding component, but also a marketing promotion piece to celebrate all the great things that are happening in downtown Fairfield and throughout Fairfield.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I have Representative Brayman next.
Thank you. And Lady Brayman, District 8, thank you for everything you're doing. what specific opportunities do you see in the future to encourage the performing arts in addition to the visual arts? I know you mentioned in the presentation Make Music Fairfield and things like that, but are there other specific opportunities that you see on the horizon?
Thank you for District 8. Yeah, we're looking into a lot of different things. I mean, we have a newsletter, we have our webpage, our website. We promote all the artistic endeavors going on around town, be it music, be it dance, theater. I don't know if that really answers your question, but go ahead, Mark.
I think we're open to those possibilities to partner with organizations. So a couple of the things that have come, we are limited in terms of the resources we have, not just in terms of financial resources, but staff resources and volunteers as well. So we do try to partner with groups to try to amplify our work. So one of the things that really came to the fore from some of the local artisans was, a need to showcase their work, maybe through a trunk show or a local artisan fair. That's part of our work plan for this upcoming year. But we're certainly open to other possibilities that come up, ways in which we can partner with other groups to, again, promote the arts in town.
Thank you. I'll think of some things if I can.
Hey.
Thank
If you're thinking
you.
anything, our meeting's tomorrow night over at the old town hall in the conference room. Meet at 6 o'clock.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Representative Diamond is next.
Actually, I decided not to ask the question, so I took
no problem.
my my post down or my request down.
No problem. Representative Morgan.
Hi, Amanda Morgan, District 9. Mine's actually a bit of a similar question to Representative Brahman's. Do you have any literary arts that you're considering? I'm the director of a small arts nonprofit in Westport that is the Westport Writers Workshop. So as soon as I heard about this, I was thinking about like how many opportunities there could be for collaboration between existing nonprofits. And it sounds like you're exploring some already with the performing arts and visual arts, but I guess it's sort of a question slash interested from both a constituent and a professional capacity of thinking about the opportunity to include the literary arts too, which I think people maybe don't always think of as part of the arts. So
Yeah, I brought up this slide because one of the networking events we had was at the Fairfield County's Story Lab over in the Sportsplex. So again, opportunities that's one of the ways in which I think it's a fairly low cost opportunity to, again, meet at various venues to bring awareness to what the work that they're doing, but also to give artists an opportunity and folks that are interested in the arts an opportunity to get together and talk about the subject. So it does, we don't have a lot of, there's not a heavy programmatic element to it. We usually provide some information about what the Arts Commission is doing and some upcoming opportunities that might be of interest to the artist community. But for the most part, it's an opportunity for artists to come together and network and share and to collaborate. So I think, again, we've tried to increase the frequency of that. So we're trying to do it every couple months at various venues throughout town. So that was one that we picked out specifically for that reason to bring greater emphasis to the literary arts.
okay, thanks.
If you haven't visited the Story Lab, you really should get over there. It's really a tremendous place. They're open, I guess they're open 24/7, right, Mark? People can just drop in. I mean, you have to be a member, obviously, but.
Thank you. Representative Rodriguez.
Hi, thank you so much for all of you do. Tracy Rodriguez, District 6. I was curious for the areas around town if there's anything that's in the works for the Tungus Hill area.
Yep, we do have one of our utility cabinets that has been sponsored in that area. It's closer to Black Rock Turnpike, but we're certainly looking for other opportunities. Really, we had actually solicited proposals from neighborhoods and groups that would like to nominate a utility cabinet's need of a facelift, some TLC. We didn't get a lot of nominations, but we're still casting the net out there. So if you do know of a utility cabinet that could use a little help, we're happy to take that under advisement. And then we're also looking for either businesses, organizations, or groups of individuals that would like to help sponsor it. And by that, I mean, we ask for a financial contribution to match the town's support. The town basically, with our dollars, your dollars, we cover the permitting and the cost of the fabrication and installation of the vinyl wrap, but we're looking for the organization to help provide compensation, appropriate compensation to the artists. So that provides a small stipend so that their creative talents are appropriately recognized.
Yeah, that's great. Are also, if there's one that's near a school, could we have like a collage type thing like that? Or is it really geared more towards artists?
No, the theme can be really, we actually asked the sponsor to help us pick a theme. And we're very open to whatever the state DOT, if these are DOT boxes, they have very specific guidelines as to what can be incorporated into the art. So you can't have logos or signs or things of that nature. And they do require it to be a vinyl wrap. You can't paint on their boxes. Now, if it's a local box, we might be able to do that, but the state requires a vinyl wrap. But we're very open to the theme of the art. So it would be great to partner with the local school for that.
That's great. And sorry, so where do you go if you want to submit one?
You can contact my office. We will be happy to work with you on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everything you do. I love this presentation.
Great, thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
That's tomorrow, dude.
I know, but it's
All right.
St. Patty's Day.
Our last report. Yeah, our last report this evening is Mr. Barnhart being joined by Herb Lemkuhler from the Affordable Housing Committee, giving a report. This is agenda item 6, and backup begins on page 23.
So Mark Barnhart,
And Herb Limecooler. Hi, everyone.
we did provide a written report, but we also supplemented with a few slides. I don't know.
Why don't you go ahead, Mark? I had a few things I can add along the way, but
All right, we practice this well. So just briefly, I think many of you, a number of you were here last year, but I just want to refresh everyone's memories in terms of what the Affordable Housing Committee, their mission, their purpose. And really it's focused on providing a full range of housing options locally, so that people who can find the housing that they need and want throughout all aspects of their life. So we're looking at, assessing the need, developing an inventory. We look to explore and leverage other sources of funding, and it's an advisory board, so we don't really have a regulatory purpose. And one of our responsibilities is to provide an annual report, which we're doing tonight. So actually, when I came to work for the town, I'm really proud of the work that Fairfield has done. Long before I came here, Fairfield was a leader and has been a leader in this area. One of the first communities, I think, to establish an affordable housing task force back in the mid-1980s. Even at that time, this community recognized that there was an issue with housing cost, and that not everyone that was living here or chose or would like to live here could afford to do so, and was looking at ways in which they could make housing more affordable for folks. And produced its first affordable housing plan back in 1988. And we've since updated that plan a couple times, most recently in 2022. despite that work, as I think many of you know, housing costs have increased quite a bit, much faster than household incomes. In terms of housing affordability, we hear a lot about people being housing cost burden or severely cost burden, where they pay more than 30% or 50% of their income towards housing. That's an issue here, as it is throughout the state, different parts of the country. Surprisingly, you'll find, it's an issue both for renters as well as homeowners, right? We have increased our housing production over time. We were averaging at one point, just under 100 units per year for a community of 22,000 housing units, more or less. We're increased that, I think, significantly, but at a fairly reasonable pace. But we are building different types of housing to address, changing needs within the population. We didn't at one point have a lot of professionally managed, amenitized apartment buildings. We do now, for those that are looking for that type of lifestyle. I think we can all reflect on the different types of housing that we lived in over the course of our lifetime. And that's always a question we pose, is that something that you can find here? Both the housing that you have had in the past, or people that or where you might want to live in the future. We want to make sure that we do have a diverse range of housing options. We have increased our affordable housing stock significantly. I think, the Affordable Housing Committee has done quite a bit of work in this area. And I think, importantly, a lot of this is the direct result of their efforts through deed-restricted properties. This couple years ago, we embarked on an initiative thanks to the Housing Trust Fund, which your body helped set up, and that enabled the town to purchase some property that we then partnered with Habitat for Humanity to build a couple of 2 duplexes, 4 units of homeownership housing. This just, timeline just gives you a sense as to the process, that it's not quickly, even in developments where you have everyone kind of working together on this, it oftentimes takes, 4 or 5 years to complete a project like this. So we finished these first projects on 246 Greenfield Street. We're now pivoting to a project with Habitat on Quincy Street. We're building 2 new duplexes there to replace single-family homes that were within the Parkview Commons development, but they were not at the right flood elevation. So we're trying to elevate them to preserve affordable housing and also modestly increase those opportunities where we can. And then we did purchase the adjoining property at 254 Greenfield Street, which we hope to go back and do 4 more units there after Quincy Street. The big news, I don't want to steal your thunder, but our big news this year is what we did achieve the town's first housing moratorium. And we're certainly, we're not resting on our laurels. We're working hard to ensure that we have, at the end of that period of time, which is in 2029, not too far away, but we have enough points in place to extend it another 5 years beyond. So we don't provide a window of opportunity for other folks to come in and file a 30G application. So we think it's important that the town have control of its own destiny to ensure that it develops housing to meet its needs as it sees fit. So that's really what this is all about, is to try to create tools and mechanisms for us to address housing based on our own local priorities and where we see that most appropriate to occur. I just wanted to give you a quick update. So we'll need 330 points as of March 2029. We're in pretty good shape. We have a number, not so much that have been completed that we can count the points right now, but we have a number of projects that are actually under construction that will yield points. So we're more than 2/3 way there. Some of these are estimated, so they could increase. Depending on how the projects point out. We're looking at 140 Bronson in particular. there's opportunity to increase the point yield from that project as that project gets CO'd and leased up. And then we have a few other projects that are still in the approval process. So we just had a very momentous discussion. We're working very closely with the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission did adopt its plan of conservation development, is making changes in concert with the POCD priorities to look at parking, business districts and the like. And one of the things we're looking at is the inclusionary zoning set-aside requirements, the inclusionary zoning fee, looking at opportunities to increase within the design residential districts, some additional density there so that people are not tempted to go the 830G route. So that's the so-called missing middle housing piece. But importantly, we also want to make sure that we have appropriate design guidelines in place to ensure we get good quality, architecturally compatible housing that works with what we're looking for locally. And we're also looking to amend our accessory dwelling unit regulations once more to see if there's opportunities to pick up some additional detached, for example, to extend the detached units elsewhere. And I know one of the things that the commission is working on is a workshop. So we do want to make sure that we're keeping the public informed as to our work, as well as the importance of housing and what we're doing locally to address that, so that we're not necessarily always, susceptible to 830G applications. So with that, I'll pause, and I'm sure Herb will fill in all the gaps and things I didn't talk about.
No real gaps, but just a couple of points. As Mark said, we're focused on more than just affordable housing as the government defines it, but looking at the fact that throughout town, people in various demographic groups are really, lacking for housing opportunities. So whether we're talking about seniors who are anxious to downsize or just looking for a place to stay in Fairfield, or millennials, or people who want to age in place, people have housing needs, and we're trying to be really sensitive to that. We also know that there's a tremendous gap between what we're doing at the town level, in Planning and Zoning Commission, Affordable Housing Committee, and what people seem to appreciate on the ground, what people realize what's going on the ground. And that's one reason behind this workshop that we have planned, which we hope will be the first of many continuing workshops. But we really need to find a way to close that gap. And we did a number of outreach sessions as part of the Age-Friendly Fairfield project last year, including one with realtors. And I was really surprised to see how many realtors were really not apprised of what really is going on in town, what's on the drawing board. So we've got a learning curve. We've got a public learning curve that we want to try to address. So as Mark articulated where we are with the strategic plan, I guess we'll have another plan to address soon, and this will come out of the state regulation now known as Public Law 25-1. So we figure to be the key agents in terms of trying to help make that housing growth plan work on the ground in consultation with the Planning and Zoning Commission. I just would add to that you can all be great ambassadors of what we do with your constituents. Please encourage them to come to our outreach sessions and let them know what we're doing, and encourage them anytime they can make a second Wednesday at 7 o'clock work at Old Town Hall. We're there, and we're happy to embrace them and have them be part of the effort. So thanks again for your service and everything that you do for us.
Thank you so much. And so we'll go to questions. And for folks who are online, I have a list going. And just as a reminder, per our rules to regulate, we'll take questions from members in person before we move online. So questions. Representative Pistilli.
Sharon Pistilli, District 5. Thank you for that presentation. I have one related comment. I'm really happy about the ADU workshops, and I have to say very honestly, like I have said this before, but it's probably been a few years since I've said it. But I live in a house that has a legal ADU. And at the time that we bought that house, we had an infant. And there was no way that we would have been able to afford to stay in Fairfield without that ADU. And now, as we get older, that will become age in place for us because we'll move to the we could move to the apartment and rent the house out, you know, if we had to. So I think to the extent that we can continue to raise awareness on that, it really is a problem solving tool in so many situations. So I'm very much in favor of that and wanted to thank you for that. And I did have a question on one thing, and I'm sorry if I missed it while you were speaking, but there was a term that I didn't understand what it was, and it was like 4 slides back. It was off-site units, off-site affordable units, and I was wondering if you could explain that what that was, because I don't know what that is.
Just reflexively reaching for the mic. So the Planning and Zoning Commission does allow for the creation of off-site affordable units in satisfaction of our inclusionary zoning requirement. It's totally at the discretion of the board, and it only applies to affordable home ownership units. So currently we have an inclusionary zoning provision that applies based on any development that creates 10 or more housing units. The developer would need to set aside at least 10% of those units, higher in certain areas, as affordable units for households that earn at or below 80% of the area median income. We recognize that sometimes it's difficult. Home ownership is a particularly difficult and vexing problem. It oftentimes requires a level of public subsidy beyond what you can typically see as part of a private development. So sometimes you have great disparities between market rate units and what the affordable units will sell for. And so we wanted to give the commission, and the commission agreed, that it would have some flexibility in how that gets administered. So there could be instances, for example, where a developer might propose and the commission could agree to accept 2 units elsewhere in satisfaction of 1 unit on site that would be conveyed by deed and essentially affordable in perpetuity to the town. So I think from our perspective, that seemed like something that we should be at least open to. And again, it would have to be considered on a case-by-case basis based on the circumstances, but we could see a situation whereby maybe the town is trying to create rental units as opposed to ownership units. Maybe they're interested in, again, more units as opposed to fewer, so you can help more households that way. And certainly we all would support something that would be permanently affordable as opposed to something that's merely restricted for 40 years. So we just saw that as another tool. The commission hasn't yet commission hasn't actually received any proposals yet or applications to do this, but it does give them the flexibility. So we were supportive of that change in those regulations.
So what the term means, so what the term means is it kind of
Not on site, off site.
yeah, it gives you kind of a fuzzy portfolio ability to say, okay, well, as long as you add 2 units in your portfolio, then we'll count it.
Yeah, some communities provide, and we've debated this as well. There are some communities that, as part of their inclusionary zoning requirement, allow payment in lieu. Instead of providing the units, you pay into the housing trust fund a fee. We're still debating that. Our preference, if I can speak for the committee, has long been that we prefer to have the units in hand rather than money in the bank. That requires a secondary step then to identify property and then develop those units sometime in the future. So at least in the instance where somebody's proposing to the commission I have these 2 units here that I'd like to swap for the 1 unit on this property. We have the benefit of actually having the units in hand. So again, the commission would have to weigh, I mean, by the commission, I mean the Planning and Zoning Commission, they'd have to weigh these factors. But we do think it was reasonable to give them the opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Howhuth? Oh,
Jen Hahuth, District 4. Thank you for all you do, all that time that you spend on these issues. Are ADUs possibly counted towards affordable housing points?
Theoretically, they can count towards a moratorium, but they have to be restricted for 40 years. So that, in my estimation, limits the potential. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, Representative Pistili's remark, provide opportunities for folks to create ADUs because, again, it serves the broader purpose of providing housing options and allowing people to stay in Fairfield.
thank you. Representative McCabe?
Michelle McCabe, District 4. Thank you so much, first of all, for all that you do. I know that how passionate this commission is and how hard you work all the time on raising this issue and advising TPZ and public and everything. So with enormous amounts of gratitude, I just have a couple of questions. The first question is, do you feel confident just with a general idea of what developable sites exist in the town that reaching the total units that we're going to need is, barring, unforeseen circumstances, that there is enough opportunity where you feel confident that that will not be difficult for us to attain? And then part 2 is, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the ways that the town is incentivizing affordable units without 830G. You mentioned one about extending the design district, and I think it would be helpful for a little bit of explanation of what that means. But if there's anything else on the horizon to incentivize without 830G, it'd be great to hear about it. Thank you.
So I'll take the second one, I guess, first, because that's first and foremost in my mind. I think that this body debated whether or not to participate in the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority. We've since signed a memorandum of agreement with the CMDA. I think, again, it's another tool that we can use to provide gap financing to developments that have been approved locally by the Planning and Zoning Commission. But also to look at, our own needs from both an infrastructure and planning technical support. So I do think that that's one opportunity in a limited area. Obviously, the development district that was approved is the area that is already approved for transit-oriented developments or overlay district around the Fairfield Black Rock Station. And it's up to the commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, as to whether or not they want to look at other parts of town and see whether or not they would be appropriate to include as well sometime down the road. The design residence district, the commission has already taken one step. There, at one point, the DRD was a design residence district overlay. It's a floating overlay zone that can be provided the underlying lot meets certain baseline criteria. Could be plopped down essentially anywhere in town that meets that criteria and provides a modest bump in density. And this is a tool by which a lot of the condominium developments in town were developed back in the 1980s and 90s. And then at some point we decided to move away from that and be more restrictive in terms of where that could be applied. And it no longer penciled out for developers. So we didn't see a lot of that type of product in the years since. And I think the commission wisely has decided to go back to that a little bit. Again, to provide some kind of middle ground between the densities we typically see with the set-aside development under 830G and something that would be more appropriate to Fairfield. And again, it's still a work in progress, but the area that the committee has been focused on is looking at the 10 to 20 unit developments. and seeing if there's other ways in which we could get to that. We do allow, as of right, 2, 3, and 4 family units here in town in certain districts. One of the things that the committee did work with, and again, supported a reg amendment with the Planning and Zoning Commission. We worked with a local developer that had a proposal, he had a 15,000 square foot lot. And legally, at that time, he could build a duplex and a single family on that lot. And we thought, there might be an opportunity to do more without, overburdening that neighborhood. So there was a reg amendment that was approved that allows the developer to create an additional unit plus a bonus unit, provided that bonus unit is deed restricted as affordable. So instead of a 3-unit development, we have a 5-unit development, with 1 being affordable. And we think there is further opportunity to do that type of work, which we think is in certain areas of town would be more appropriate than building, a 3 or 4 story building. You don't want to do that outside of maybe, areas around your transit nodes, for example. So that's, I think, where we see the biggest pushback for all these set aside developments. They're in neighborhoods that, they're primarily 2, 3 story houses or 2 family houses that are there. So we'd prefer to do something that would be more compatible with that.
There is a credit, as far as affordable housing is concerned, there is a partial credit that we get for building middle housing. This was a law that was passed about 2 years or so ago. So that's something for us to keep in mind. And we're certainly looking at ways we can improve, maybe strengthen the inclusionary zoning regs that might help to produce some additional units as well. So, there are a lot of things that we can do. We continue to work closely with the Housing Authority to support their efforts. And they've done great quality work. And, as part of the housing growth plans, we'll be asked to develop an inventory of developable land in town. And so that'll be an exercise for us. And it may even involve us looking at some things that we had previously not considered, but maybe giving another look to those. So I think there's a whole potpourri of things that we can and will be doing.
Thank you. Representative Carroll?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Chris Carroll, District 8. I have 2 questions. One, I think is a simple question. I don't know a lot about this stuff, and I see things in the press, and I saw a note on the High Street location that it was my tax dollars, that $570,000. I saw this written down in a number of places that it was my tax dollars that paid for that. Is that accurate?
Well, the Housing Trust Fund is predominantly funded through inclusionary zoning fees that are supplemental building permit fees that are assessed for projects, new construction and building additions that don't otherwise contribute to affordable housing or meeting our affordable housing needs in town. So I suppose it depends how you want to define tax dollars, but it's a supplemental building permit fee that's the primary source for the Housing Trust Fund.
So it's coming out of the builders. It's not coming out of what I pay on my property taxes.
No, it's definitely not coming out of your property taxes for sure.
Okay, because I saw that. Somehow I was paying for that. I knew the answer. I'm being somewhat facetious. I think it's nonsense that some of that stuff shows up, the misinformation people like to put out there. The other thing, the Habitat for Humanity sparked a thought, that it took 5 years to get that built. And I saw an interesting interview this morning with the mayor of San Jose, California, where California faces similar housing crisis that most of the country does. And they have taken steps. He gave an example like this, a 5-year project turned around in 2 years. Because instead of everything going through the zoning boards, for example, once the rules are established, let the director of development in their city hall or city go ahead and approve these things and keep things moving. Is that something that is even possible, is being pursued? What can we do to accelerate some of these projects going forward.
I think that's a fair point. I don't think it necessarily is apropos to habitat because most of these are what we would consider as of right development. So, you know, the Greenfield Street project, for example, is in an area that's already approved for 2 families. So you need to do that just by building permit. You don't have to go to planning and zoning for that purpose. Quincy Street's a little bit different because it's in a coastal management zone, so we didn't need to get a CAM approval. But most of it is the habitat model, which requires, you know, as the habitat gentleman told me, it's a great project, but it's not exactly the most efficient way to build a house because you're mobilizing groups of volunteers to do the community build. So it's a project that many people are involved in, and it's very, I think a lot of people enjoy being part of that, not just giving financially, but also getting involved in the actual construction part of it. But it does take a little bit more time. But I do think the mayor was onto something because I do think one of the things that we control, to Representative McCabe's point, is ways in which we can streamline the permitting process. Because not everything, especially in the transit-oriented development district, most of those projects have been, first of all, we've developed an area, we have kind of a master plan of approval in place. When we have projects and they're required to do a public hearing, they get very few not very many public participation, and those projects have been approved near unanimously, if not unanimously. So I think, you know, sometimes we should look at the process we have in place and see whether or not every step along that way is necessary, because, you know, time is money. So I think there is some opportunity to do that for sure.
Thank you. Representative Zezima.
Thank you, Liz Esma, District 4. Thank you, guys, and also for the reminder of how ahead of the curve we were. I forgot that it was 40 years ago that we started this. Will this be added to our backup, by the way, this presentation?
Yes, it will.
Thanks. So right now, just mathematically, it looks like we're 63 points shy of where we would need to be to extend beyond the 2029, the end of the 4-year moratorium. Remind me what the timeline looks like for that. So when do we need to have what? I know the certificate of occupancy is the final hurdle.
Yeah, I would say to be comfortable, we'd like to have the application in place, everything in place 6 months prior to the expiration of the existing moratorium. So, you know, what we're really looking at is to ensure that projects that we think should contribute points towards our moratorium being in the ground, you know, late this year, early next year as kind of our timetable, because it typically does take, depending on the complexity of the project, 18, sometimes 24 months to complete a project. So, you know, I think we feel comfortable that we have multiple pathways to get there. And based on everything we know at the present time, we think, again, we are in good shape, but we spend time at every meeting looking at this and making sure that we're doing all we can to ensure that we do have the points necessary to extend that at the end of 2029.
And that translates into number of units or the type of housing differently depending on what it is.
It does. So you can see, you know, in terms of when we looked at the points that are contributed by projects, some of it is obviously based on the size of the project, number of units, but, you know, for example, the project with Fairfield Housing Corporation and 980 High Street, all those units are affordable, some are deeply targeted. So that would contribute more points than, you know, a similar project that maybe only 20 or 30% of those units are set aside as affordable.
Great, thank you. The data on page 25 is pretty eye-opening, but I have a question about one. Right now, we're showing 0 residential sales under 300,000 for 2025. That would include condos, of course, right? So we had no condos that traded under 300,000.
I think that's true. Yeah,
Okay.
we have.
That's
Yep.
shocking. And my last question is, I know this is a TPZ thing, and I'm not saying it's even possible, but, you know, clearly we've seen dozens of houses all over town, small starter homes be replaced with much larger homes. It's all done within what is allowed, right? There's setbacks, there's zoning regulations. Is there any way to incentivize or de-incentivize the size of these homes? In other words, what can we do to keep a reasonable stock of starter homes without, you know, literally prohibiting things that we probably
If
don't
you
want
have
to
the
do?
answer to that question, we'll take notes because this has been an ongoing topic. We'll be meeting with individual home builders to explore that further. Even in the case of the Habitat Project, this is a good example. The town essentially, through our good collective efforts, provided the land at essentially no cost to Habitat. It still costs them, with their model of contributed labor, more than they could sell the house for. And these are, you know, there are 3 and 4 bedroom units, so maybe not as small, but they're not large units either. So that's an issue for us because even if we provide the land, we're not able to build the house without losing money. So you have to provide additional subsidy beyond that in order to sell it at an affordable rate, which would be, you know, let's say not even 300, but let's say less than 400. These units are going to cost in excess of $500,000. So it's a problem. Part of that is soft costs. So again, to the point that was raised earlier, can we do something to reduce that? But part of it is we've seen construction costs go up, especially in the last few years. If you have financing, interest costs have gone up. So it is a vexing issue. But we've also noticed that there is a disconnect between the housing stock that we have and the household composition. So the households are smaller, but we have a large percentage of our housing stock that's 4 and 5 bedrooms with 1 or 2 people living in it. So part of it is, you know, some of those folks don't want to maintain a large house, but is there something small that they can move into? Frequently the answer right now is maybe an apartment building, but not everyone wants to do that. Maybe they want to own something. So we need to, again, think about other options that are out there for folks. But the starter home issue is something we spent a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure do. Thank you really for the work you're doing. Thanks.
Sorry, turn it off for a second. Anyone else in person with any questions? All right, so I'm going to move to my list online and call on members. I think we have Representative Brayman first.
Thank you. So you talked a little bit about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that the RTM passed in 2018, and then you talked about the authorization that the RTM passed to allow the town to work with the CMDA. Is there anything, you know, in the near future on the horizon potentially that the RTM could do, in addition to being, you know, a resource for our constituents and knowledge base for our constituents about affordable housing issues? Is there anything that we could do to help?
I think, Lenny, just, you know, certainly pushing these opportunities for outreach. And we want to look for ways of making information more available. You know, there's a lot of information Mark's put on the committee website. I think we need to publicize that. So there's work that we can do to do more publicity. But we really need to meet people somewhere along the way. And right now, that's I think maybe our biggest challenge. So anything you can do to help with that would be great.
And I'll add one thing from my perspective. When I first came to work for the town, one of the issues that the Affordable Housing Committee had me work on was looking at property that the town controlled, town owned, that maybe wasn't being utilized in a meaningful way. And so as a result of that, we did create the Greenfield Commons Senior Development So Section 202 senior housing project that we did with Mutual Housing Association was on a small half-acre pocket park that the town really didn't have any use for. And I think we have periodically also looked at the town's inventory of its own assets and looked to see whether or not there are properties that perhaps we could leverage in a different way. And so maybe I think, again, that's part of a broader conversation that would definitely involve this body for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Niffen.
Yes, hi. Thanks for the presentation, and thank you for this key statistical data. Just looking at the line that Liz referenced earlier, where number of residential sales under $300,000 is 0. Is there a place, a source I can go to see the values of houses sold in 2025? I don't know, by $100,000 bracket or by actual numbers, et cetera?
Yeah, we do look at that, and we could certainly provide something like that. That sort of breakdown, sort of a distribution to the RTM. I will say there isn't much at all between 300 and 400 either. Unfortunately, the middle value of sales is, has been in the $900,000 range. Although I think when we get the grand list data, I think we'll find out that the valuations may show a number that's lower than that 900. I don't think we're going to see the middle value having an appraisal value of 900. I think that's instructive for us to keep in mind. But yes, we can get some additional information for the.
Yeah, that would be helpful. And when you do a little bit of arithmetic, a $300,000 home, if someone were to take out a 5% mortgage, and then say, well, most banks say that, your mortgage payments and your insurance shouldn't be more than 30% of your gross monthly income, it basically works out to about someone making $50,000 a year to be able to afford a $300,000 house. And the reason I'm going through this is we often talk about people who work in town who can't afford to live here. And somehow we've got to find sort of where the two lines intersect. What to most of these people that we want to support, what's their typical income, average income, median income, and how does that compare to whatever small number of houses come up for sale that are less than $500,000, if you follow my reasoning here. I guess.
I think our focus has been on affordable, so that's less than 80% of area median income, because we've been under such pressure to achieve the moratorium and have some semblance of control, peace. Yeah, but I think as part of our bigger strategy, as we're able to, I think it would be great for us to be looking at, maybe 80 to 100, or even 100 to 120. And just looking for providing opportunities along the gamut of incomes. So I think that's something.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Sorry.
I'm saying something we'd love to do as the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, I think looking at those income brackets and what kind of house purchase would be affordable would start to put some texture, some numbers to this general notion that we want to have housing that people who work here can afford. It's a good general notion, and I support it completely, but I'd love to know a little bit more about what those numbers mean. So if you could provide that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Diamond.
Hi, so Mark and Herb, thank you very much for this presentation and for answering our questions. I'm following up on a question that Liz asked 5-10 minutes ago about kind of that gap between the 267 expected HUEPs and then what we need to achieve the 330. And Mark, you had said that you and others are fairly confident that that gap can be closed. I'm just wondering, kind of like in a basketball game where the announcers say, these are the keys to this team winning, right? And they give 2 bullets. So what are the key things that would allow that to happen? And what are maybe 1 or 2 key things that could go wrong that might get in the way of that being achieved?
Well, real estate development is always a risky proposition, but as you get further along, the risks change and go down a little bit. They're different. There's still risk as you're in construction, but they're a little bit more manageable. So the pre-development piece is the more, projects because of external factors, whether there's a shock to the economic system and interest rates change significantly, construction costs go up. People may decide not to go forward with the project because suddenly it's no longer viable. Once they're actually starting construction, typically all those things are a little bit more buttoned up. There's a little bit more certainty. Not that you can't run into stuff that's unexpected as you're building it, but I feel better. That's why we're managing to getting projects kind of that we want to count towards our moratorium in the ground, get them to the point where they're actually under construction, because then we feel like there's a pathway we can reasonably predict within a period of time that we'll have a CO. And so that's why we've been really focused on getting, this construction season is a critical one for us to ensure that, to give ourselves a little bit more of a breathing room to feel, again, more confident that come 2029, we'll have the points that we need. So we are in constant contact with a number of these folks to make sure that, there are a lot of issues that they have to manage on their own, but there are things that certainly where we can be helpful to ensure that they're getting people to look at their plans, the building permits are issued on time, that type of thing. So that's my job, not solely as relates to affordable housing, but other developments, to ensure that they're getting answers from folks on staff and doing so in a timely fashion.
And so that 63 points between the 267 and the 330, those are yet to be identified projects, correct? In other
We
words,
have them identified. We
Okay.
just don't want to necessarily count on those before they're in a position where they have a building permit. So again,
Okay.
the idea is to have a couple different pathways to get to the number you need. So that if something falls off course, doesn't materialize, it's not catastrophic. You have a contingency plan. So there are a number of projects that are right now moving towards building permit and construction, but they're not at the point where I'd want to necessarily move them into the categories. They haven't started work yet, but they're right on the cusp of that. And you would expect that come, spring is usually a time where projects, again, move forward, but, start in construction in earnest. So we're, again, there are a number of projects that we're carefully monitoring.
It'd be nice in 6 months or so to kind of touch
We'll-
base again about this. And I
We
know
will be,
yeah.
there will be monthly updates through the Affordable Housing Committee, as
Yeah.
you know, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Larson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you both for what you're doing. Gil Larson, District 2. I was going through the backup, as I know Representative Niffen and Diamond and some others have done, and I think, it's pretty striking. Population keeps going up, medium home sales price keeps going up, but yet number of residential sales under 300, 0 in 2025 from 272, 25 years ago, which is pretty striking. So I think it's so essential we continue to provide people who work in the town, want to stay in the town, want to move into the town with the means to do so. So thank you again for what you're doing. My question is, and I think it's wonderful. We're in a 3-year moratorium now, 4 years. I guess the second year of a 4-year moratorium. And I know we want to get those credits, and we want to extend that moratorium as long as we can. My question is there any consideration given to the impact on the schools as well as the impact to traffic in town with all these families moving in, all these kids coming into the school system? I'm just wondering, is there some sort of coordination as you're planning these projects? Is there any consideration or coordination with some other, the Board of Ed or the Police Department Traffic and Safety Commission? Is there any connection with that as you plan future affordable housing units?
Well, there's two observations I'll make. One is, and I'll then let Herb comment as well. One is that not all projects are created equal in that regard. If you look at some of the larger multifamily developments around transit, they produce very, very few school-age children. Most of those units are studio, 1-bedroom, perhaps a few twos sprinkled in. And if you look at the number of, and we track this, we've been tracking this for more than 10 years now, with actual data supplied by the Board of Ed in terms of where school-age children live in town. Those apartment buildings generate very few school-age children, which in one respect isn't that surprising, again, given the composition of the unit and the fact that 85% of our housing stock is single-family dwellings, which is where the kids usually come from. So that's one thing I would say in regard to it. I'll pause if Herb would like to comment.
Those units, those developments substantially inure to our tax base as well. And Mark has an exhibit that I think demonstrates. Oh, we didn't include that in the package? Okay. It's not in the package, but I guess we get close to $1 million. Well, we get $800,000 in taxes just from 4 units that are in that development on an annual basis, I think. And
I do have a slide. I think I've shared it with this board in the economic development presentation. I don't want to be redundant, but I can share that with you again. That looks at number of school-age children and tax yield on some of these developments, particularly mixed multifamily. The other thing I would say, though, is that in most cases here, we're not talking about town-sponsored projects. These are projects that are being proposed by the private sector. So we don't have a lot of say in terms of what properties they're looking to develop, as long as they meet our regulations to do so. And in the case of 830G, they kind of set those aside because they're not bound by our regulations. So it's, again, to the extent to which we have more say in terms of where that development should occur, be based on our land use policies and regulations, that would be, I think, our preference, which is why, we think it's important to not only have the moratorium, but extend the moratorium so we have the ability to plan for our future in terms of where that housing development should occur and the types of housing we want to see happen. So those are the two things I would say is, one, oftentimes these are not town projects, so we're not identifying a lot with the exception of the Greenfield Street. We identified a lot. We wanted to do 4 units there. But in most cases, they're private developments. And then for the apartment buildings in particular, we're not seeing a lot of school-age children at those developments.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you could provide that slide that you referenced that showed the number of school-age children, that would be helpful. But
We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I appreciate all the background and context on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Barron.
Hi, Emma Barron, District 6. Thanks for coming. I was just curious, Obviously, towards the end of us reaching this current moratorium, we saw a lot of projects pushed in sort of towards the end, and in the past couple of years in general. And I was just wondering if there is concern or worry at all from the committee's point of view, that without 830G, if that, if that sort of incentive of that law will, um, you know, bring less people who are looking to create or build affordable housing. I'm just wondering if the existence of 830G, when we weren't in the moratorium, gave people more of an incentive to build and to, make affordable housing, and if there's concern about a lacking interest there. And then second part to the question is also just looking for any thoughts or policy in the way that the committee is gonna does look or does not look to sort of make sure that projects like these are spread out equitably and in a way that makes sense across town.
Sure, go ahead first and I'll.
All right, you like to chime in afterwards in case I miss something. Those are a couple good points. So let me start with, I think the reason why we have an inclusionary zoning regulation, or why the Affordable Housing Committee supported the institution of one, is to, as private development occurs throughout town, there is an obligation on the part of the applicant to incorporate affordable or below market rate units as part of that development. And so that will occur naturally as development occurs in town, and those tend to be distributed where those opportunities are. They're not concentrated in one particular area, although maybe because of certain economic factors and the availability of land at a lower cost, there tends to be more activity in one part of town versus another. But we think that's the fair way to do it, which is to, as part of an inclusionary zoning requirement, require developers that create housing to make some provision for affordable units as part of their development. So that, we think that's the fair way to do it. To your first point, I think Fairfield is a great community. People want to invest here. They want to live here for a lot of good reasons. You all know it. So we haven't seen really any decrease in interest to do housing. Where we think it's important is that, unlike a set-aside application or 830G, where you can pretty much do that and ignore whatever your land use policies and regulations allow for, the developments we're seeing are in areas where we have the infrastructure in place to support higher density. So for an example, around transit, downtowns and commercial corridors, those areas you can support a higher level of density than you can smack dab in the middle of a single family residential district. And so we think that's appropriate. So that gives the town the opportunity to direct that development activity where it makes sense. And so with the moratorium, I don't see that there's really any decrease in investment interest in Fairfield. It's just finding the right mix between finding available land that can be developed at a cost that kind of makes sense. And those are all, market conditions at play. So I don't know if you wanted to add something.
I think that was a great question. And it's true that we're going to have to be, if anything, more creative in coming up with solutions going forward. But we think we have a number of tools at our disposal, and the key is using them as wisely as we can.
Thank you. Yeah, just from District 6 perspective, the questions just come up out of curiosity since we've seen, a high number of those projects in our district. And I'm very aware of sort of the socioeconomic impact and sort of cycle that plays there. So I appreciate that. And I think just my final additional question is just, um, does the committee work with developers and or is there sort of standards or policies in place? Obviously, I know you're using like the state's guidance for what is affordable housing, but sort of like, after the project is built, how it then caters to town members. So, do they have restrictions on what, rent increases look like, what, as everything gets more expensive and inflated, what is affordable in 2 years might not be affordable now and things like that.
I will say that, again, we do spend time to ensure compliance with the restrictive covenants that are in place. So developments with affordable units are required to annually report to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which refers them to our office for review, and we do thoroughly analyze those reports and ensure that the folks living there are within income limits, and the rents that are being charged are also within the appropriate limits for those units. And where, and again, we find for the most part that most of the property managers and landlords here are trying to do the right thing. So we work with them. We have found a few instances, not significant, but in the case of one where they overcharged the tenants, we required them to refund, pay that money back, or provide a credit on their monthly rent. So we are monitoring compliance to ensure that we're getting exactly what we thought we were getting.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate the work you're both doing.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to members that haven't asked questions yet. First, Representative Nickel.
Good afternoon or evening, and happy St. Patrick's Day Eve. Scott Nickel, District 7. My question is the big Army. It used to be a maintenance facility right near Gould Manor. Any plans on that? I know it's probably got all kinds of remediation that has to be done as far as the materials.
We have thought about the Turner Reserve Center, but under the terms in which the town is to acquire it, a no-cost conveyance, it precludes use for residential. It can only be used for recreational purposes. So the thought that I certainly have and other committee members have is that in doing that, if that can only be used for recreational purposes, perhaps that would open up other opportunities in town where we couldn't meet a residential need. So that's something, it's part of a domino effect, but I understand why the town wants to acquire the property at no cost. But in doing so, you have to monitor those restrictions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone who has not yet asked a question? All right, Representative Pistilli.
Sharon Pistilli, District 5. I have 2 words for the Army Reserve Center: town pool. Anyway, I had one additional question. Has the whole situation with the sewer system and the fact that, we have to do this mushroom cloud of an upgrade, has that slowed us down in any respects in terms of our ability to develop?
No, I mean, we needed to do that anyway. When you're looking at obviously having to make a very expensive upgrade to your water pollution control facility, and because you have 50% of your inflow is I&I, I mean, it just makes sense to address that. But it did constrain, if we didn't address it, it would have constrained capacity down the road. So you couldn't really meet existing, let alone future demand, whether that's commercial or residential or whatnot. But I think for a lot of reasons, it's it's a good thing we're addressing to take water that doesn't have to be treated out of the system, so we don't have to spend a lot of money to upgrade the plant or expand the plant. But it hasn't really inhibited development activity, to my knowledge, because what the Water Pollution Control Authority has done is take a look at the existing conditions, but also future proposed conditions after the improvements have been made. And again, these projects take some time to come to fruition. So by the time they're ready to actually start building or in a position to get a CO, hopefully these projects, our sewer work will be completed and there'll be sufficient capacity in the pipe to accept them. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate a very comprehensive presentation on a really important topic. So before we adjourn this evening, I just wanted to remind members, just to follow up on the email I sent about last week or 2 weeks ago, asking what departments you'd like to have come before us for our budget hearings. I need to finalize that list by early next week, so just want to give people another opportunity this week to kind of think about it, discuss in your caucuses next week, and let me know by Tuesday morning at the latest. I just want to make sure that we're really using our budget hearing time very effectively and efficiently. And so want to just encourage members to be following along the budget process as it goes from the Board of Selectmen to the Board of Finance, and would like to try and avoid asking department heads to come before us and give the same presentations that they've already given to prior bodies. And obviously we will be hearing from a lot of departments, but just want to really use our time effectively. So please make sure you're following that process along. Seeing no more questions, we will adjourn. This meeting is adjourned at 9:06 p.m. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.